I think it's on. Oh, yeah. Yes, I do. Alright, that was obnoxious. I really have to do the juggling thing. I haven't juggled since my stroke. It's years and years and years. But I really have to try again. I don't know. Maybe it's a bad idea. Anyway, yeah, it's just kind of fun to throw the camera in the air. I do like doing that. Anyway, yeah. Maybe I'll just do a whole video of that. I'll just stand in a place and throw the camera up in the air and catch the camera. And hopefully it still works like this. Anyway, yeah, I can just addicted to it. Yeah, I really am. See how high I can throw it and still catch it. I have enough cameras. I can afford to do it. Alright, that is obnoxious. Anyway, I'll go this way. Alright, video. Life. I wanted to get to Rosebush. He made a really dumb video, but they're all dumb, and it's just a stupid argument. And in the end, he makes some statement basically saying, well, that he thinks that if people could evaluate their life from the end point, looking back from the completed point, that somehow we would be surprised how all the majority of people would say, oh yeah, that was just kick-ass. And I would argue exactly the opposite. My personal experience is really irrelevant. It's all anecdotal. But yes, I've actually heard people in the nursing home saying, kill me. I've actually seen them say, I hate being alive. So I say this is bullshit. I say if people saw the real context of their life, if they actually saw how forgotten they were and how quickly they were forgotten, they might reflect on it and say, yeah, I think I'd rather not do that again. Would they impose their life on somebody else? That would be the key thing to ask the people. I mean, you have to ask questions creatively. You know, surveying people does take a little bit of work. It's kind of like a polygraph examiner. You have to do it correctly. If you don't do it correctly, the results are going to be crap. And so you have to do it correctly. And there's a way of phrasing questions and leading up to questions to glean real answers, not just fake. Oh, yeah, sure, I'm a hero. Yeah, I'm a hero. Yes, I'm a great person. Yes. You know, you're just going to get bullshit answers if you don't do that. If somebody asks me whether I'm happy, of course I'm going to say I'm happy, because you don't want to sound like a sad sack and a complainer. I mean, duh. So you have to ask questions carefully and constructively. You have to construct them to glean meaningful answers. This is what people with intelligence do. Dumb people ask dumb questions and then use the results as conclusive proof of something. So anyway, we don't even have these answers, so it's no point really. You know, we can't ask the dead. We can't ask all the victims of World War II, the dead ones, was it all worth it? Can't do that. You know, World War I would be even a better survey sample, right? Because, man, did they ever die hard. Yeah, I suspect there's lots of people who'd be quite capable of reflecting on life and saying, yeah, this is a lot of work, and it really wasn't much fruit for it. The key thing, I guess, is, again, let's go back to the idea of imposing your life on somebody else. So let's say the game of life, you know, it's always, the thought experiments are revealing. They are valuable. You know, the idea was that you didn't just die. What you did was you passed your life on to somebody else in terms of they would experience it. So in essence, you practiced your life, and there was this option to impose it or not to impose it. Like yours was real, but it wasn't as real, or it wasn't the real game, or it didn't make it to the major leagues. And all the lives that were worth it would go to the major leagues because somebody would say, yes, impose that life on somebody else. It's a good life. So that's kind of the question. So let's say there's a 6-year-old kid and a 5-year-old. And your life will now be their life. They will live the life you lived. Would you do that? You know, I mean, I know it sounds silly just in the sense that it's almost the same as you think about it, right? Because they're going to be your life. But let's say it's a little different. You can't be sure of their exact disposition and exactly how they're going to interpret the experiences of your life. So let's just say they will have the experiences of your life. Would you do it? Would you bestow upon them the marvelous gift of your life experience? They will make the decisions you made. They will make the choices you made. They will fall into the pits of hell that you fell into. And they will do it as themselves, but substantially it'll be your life from their perspective. In terms of, but the experiences themselves will be the same. The pain will be the same. The sensations, the moods, the emotions will be imposed upon them. I think then people would have a little bit of apprehension. They might sit back and think for a minute before they impose it on somebody else. I guess this is the point I want to make, is that it's so much easier for us to backseat drive someone else's life. It's so easy to see where other people are making critical mistakes in perception, where they get completely owned by some sort of over-emotional reaction. You know, sometimes, most of the time, you can't tell them these simple things. You can't just say, you're an alcoholic, asshole, and so once you fix that, everything else will be okay. Or you can't say, you know, you've got a guilt complex, you're pretending you're some kind of superhero, you're setting yourself up from standards that are impossible to meet, you didn't do anything wrong, you did the best you could. Yes, the results weren't perfect, but you didn't create the imperfect results. The fact that you went to sleep and something burned down isn't your fault. Okay, you didn't start the fire. It'd be so easy to just see how they're tearing themselves up for nothing. And so we can always do that. We can always see so easily the messes that other people are making. And likewise, I think our empathy works similarly, in the sense that there's some miseries there's people we just wouldn't want them to suffer those miseries, and we would take them on ourselves if we could, because we don't like seeing it in them. Now, isn't that kind of a strange phenomenon, that we would think we're more capable than they are of enduring it or dealing with it? And why do we have that difference of perception? And so I think that's an important factor in understanding the fact that we think of our life much better than it actually is, because of our own will to be courageous, and will to be strong, and will to be honorable, and will to be all these things, these good things, these good character things. And we will cut so much more of a break to somebody else, and we will be so much more capable of understanding the nastiness of something when it's happening to them. It's like even, humiliations are always kind of like that. You can see somebody being hurt, being humiliated or degraded in some way, and it seems so much worse when it's happening to them than when it's happening to you. At least it does in my brain, because it's like, I don't even feel it. And you can see how hurt other people are. But maybe it's just you're not seeing your own pain. You don't see your own pain as easily as you see other people's. So anyway, it is about, there's a art to getting the truth, to getting to the truth. There's a process. It's a little bit of work. You've got to extract it carefully from people. And these simple questions: are you happy? Was your life worth it? These aren't questions that a smart person answers recklessly or sloppily or without giving it some thought. And if the real implication was to actually have to really live it again, I think people would have a little pause. certainly people who have had the context of a full life and experienced some of the blightier golden years. Yeah, because man, there can be some bad stuff in there. Yeah, but again, ultimately, this for me, the question isn't whether you think your life is worth it. It's whether you would allow somebody else to suffer for your life. And that's the key thing here, is that there are victims that have to be created for you to exist. Now, I'm pretty sure, in a virtual reality, some sort of perfect world, or near perfect, I would probably say, yes, I want to play. Because, yeah, I like playing. I like playing games that are harmless. But yeah, any game that's going to require somebody else to pay a price, then all of a sudden, no, I don't want any part of that. I don't want any part of somebody else having to go through terrible mental torment or some other level of harm for me to get to play my game. All right, and that's where people really fall down on this argument. The asymmetry argument of Benatar's is just that life is kind of failed right from its core, and it's better not to mess with it. And I think it's sound logically. But even more sound is the argument that even if your life was worth living, your life is not lived free of context. The context of your life is the biosphere, is the other sentient humans. If people have babies, a certain number of them will be born in bad circumstances. A certain number of them will incur disability and harms. And the point is, are you willing to accept that those harmed individuals will have to experience that harm for you to have your gratification?